My name is Harper Lane, and the morning of my grandmother's funeral is a memory that still stings every time I let myself think about it. Not because of her passing, although losing her felt like someone pulled the floor out from under me, but because of the way my family treated me. People think grief brings families together, but sometimes it does the exact opposite. Sometimes it shows you who people really were the whole time. I arrived at the church early, holding a bouquet of soft white lilies. They were her favorite. She used to grow them in a cracked ceramic pot on her porch, tending to them like fragile little secrets. When the wind bent their stems, she would cup them gently and whisper, "Easy now, flowers. Life is long." I brought lilies because she loved them. Simple as that. But the moment I walked through the church doors, I heard the snickering. My Aunt Renee leaned toward another relative and whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Of course she brings flowers. Like this is some school play." Then came a quiet chorus of laughter. A few smirks. Eyes rolling. Someone muttered, "Always trying too hard. Trying too hard." That was what they always said about me. If I showed up early, I was trying too hard. If I dressed nicely, trying too hard. If I helped Grandma with groceries, trying too hard. And if I didn't show up, or didn't offer help, or didn't speak, then they said I didn't care. There was no version of me they accepted unless I was silent, invisible, or convenient. I tightened my grip on the flowers and walked past them without looking up. Grandma's casket rested at the front of the church, draped in a soft white cloth with pale embroidery. Seeing it felt like a punch. My breath caught, and for a moment I couldn't move. I placed the lilies gently beside the casket. My hands lingered there, wishing I could hold her soft, warm fingers one more time. Wishing I could hear her call me sweetheart in that gentle voice that made the world feel less hostile. As I turned around, I came face to face with my cousin Brianna. She crossed her arms and raised one eyebrow. "Cute flowers, Harper. Very dramatic." I blinked. "It's a funeral. Flowers are normal." She smirked. "Maybe for people who mattered." That one hit hard. I didn't respond. I walked past her and sat in the second row, alone. My family filled the first row completely, leaving no space for me intentionally. I wasn't surprised. This wasn't new. They had been pushing me to the edges of the family for years. Ever since Grandma had started relying on me more than them. They hated that I was the one she called when she needed help. They hated that I spent weekends fixing her porch steps or organizing her medication. They hated that I visited her every Sunday like clockwork. They hated that she loved me openly, while they loved her only when she had something to give. And in their minds, that meant I was trying to steal something. Money. Approval. Importance. I'm not even sure what. But whatever they imagined, they convinced themselves it was dangerous. When the service started, my Aunt Renee sniffled dramatically every 30 seconds, dabbing at her face like she was the star of some sad movie. My uncle whispered his commentary through half the readings. My cousins flipped through the program like they were bored. I sat quietly with my hands folded, remembering the way Grandma's kitchen smelled like cinnamon and warm bread. Remembering the hours we spent watching old movies together. Remembering how she brushed my hair gently with her fingers because she said, "This is how my mother showed love when she didn't have the words." When the pastor opened the floor for anyone who wanted to speak, no one moved. The silence stretched painfully. A room full of people who claimed to love her, and not one had a story to share. Before I could stop myself, I stood. The entire first row stiffened, like my standing was an act of rebellion. I walked up to the podium and cleared my throat softly. My grandmother loved simple things, I began quietly. Fresh bread. Sunday afternoons. Old movies. Little birds in her garden. And lilies. A few relatives looked uncomfortable. A few rolled their eyes. She taught me that kindness matters most when no one is watching. She taught me that love is something you show in small moments. And she always said that even when people judge you, you should stay gentle. My voice cracked just a little. "I'm trying, Grandma." When I stepped down, the silence was colder than before. I sat back in my seat and folded my hands. No one thanked me. No one touched my shoulder. No one even looked at me. After the service, everyone filed into the church hall for the reception. Tables were lined with cheap pastries. People stood in tight groups whispering. I walked toward the table to get a cup of coffee, still holding the small speech I had printed in case my voice shook too much to speak. My cousin Tyler snatched it out of my hand, looked at it, and laughed. "You wrote your speech out? Wow. Desperate much?" His sister leaned in. "Harper treats funerals like auditions." More laughter. Their cruelty wasn't even creative. Just loud. Careless. Thoughtless. The way people laugh when they think they're safe from consequences. I held my coffee firmly and walked past them without reacting. I had learned long ago that reacting only encouraged them. But what none of them knew was that someone else had been watching everything. The lawyer. He had been standing near the entrance, observing my family's behavior quietly, his expression unreadable. He didn't know me well, but he had known Grandma for years. And he knew exactly what she thought of her family. After about 30 minutes, he cleared his throat loudly. The room settled. He said, "Could I have everyone's attention, please? We will now proceed with the private family meeting regarding the estate. Only immediate family." Everyone perked up instantly like someone had just handed out lottery tickets. Aunt Renee smoothed her blouse. My uncle straightened his tie. Brianna applied lip gloss. Tyler put away his phone. They were practically glowing. Money. That's what they were waiting for. That's when the lawyer did something unexpected. He turned his head and looked directly at me. "Mississippi Lane. Please come with us." The room froze. Then exploded into whispers. Renee blinked. Why would she need to come? The lawyer spoke calmly. "Your mother was Mrs. Owens's daughter. That makes Harper immediate family." My aunt forced a smile that looked like it hurt her jaw. "Yes, well, she can sit in the back." The lawyer corrected her gently. "Actually, she needs to sit in the front. There is something addressed specifically to her." The whispers grew louder. My aunt's face tightened. "Addressed to her? That must be a mistake." The lawyer did not smile. "No. There is no mistake." He motioned for me to follow. I walked behind him, heart pounding, my family staring at me like I had just stolen their oxygen. We moved into a quiet conference room attached to the church hall. A long table sat in the middle. Folders stacked neatly. Pens aligned. A pitcher of water. Everyone took their seats, jostling to get as close to the front as possible. The lawyer remained standing. He placed one hand on a large beige folder. "This," he said clearly, "was left by your grandmother. And it changes everything." And then he turned and handed the folder to me. The room went silent. Dead silent. Like the whole world had just stopped breathing. When that folder touched my hands, it felt heavier than it looked. Not just because of the paper inside, but because I could feel everyone's eyes drilling into me. My aunts, my cousins, the side relatives who only showed up for big events and bigger drama. The silence in that room wasn't respectful. It was sharp. Hungry. Suspicious. I swallowed and pulled the folder closer. Renee leaned forward, her voice tight. "I am her daughter. If there is anything important in there, I should see it first." The lawyer kept his gaze steady, his tone calm. "Your mother has a separate packet, Mrs. Owens. This one is specifically labeled for Harper. Your mother's instructions were very precise." That last line stung a nerve in the room. People who live entitled their whole lives never expect precision to exclude them. Brianna crossed her arms and scoffed quietly. Grandma must have been confused. The lawyer must have heard it, but he didn't respond. He simply nodded toward the folder. "Mississippi Lane, please open it." My palms were sweating now. I took a breath and flipped the cover open carefully. On top was an envelope with my name written in my grandmother's handwriting. Underneath it, I could see legal documents. Printed pages. Signatures. Stamps. Things that looked official and irreversible. My heartbeat got louder. I picked up the envelope and opened it, unfolding the letter inside. "My darling Harper, if you are holding this, it means I have gone where I must go and you are still here where I wish I could stay. I am sorry I could not look you in the eyes and tell you what I put in this folder. I did not want to start a war around my hospital bed. You always brought me flowers even when the family said it was too much. You brought me soup when I did not ask. You fixed my porch step without waiting for anyone to notice. You showed up in all the ways that count, not the ways that make noise." My throat tightened as I read. "The others love me when I am useful. You loved me even when I was only tired and old and sick. I noticed that. Every time. So when it came time to decide what to do with what little I had, I asked myself a simple question. Who showed up? Who stayed? Who made me feel less alone? The answer was you. You will find the legal language under this letter. The lawyer will explain more. But know this. Whatever is in that folder is not a gift. It is a thank you. You did not ask for it. You did not demand it. You did not hint for it. That is exactly why you deserve it. Do not let them make you feel guilty. Do not let them shame you. And do not let them convince you to hand back what I chose for you. I love you, sweetheart. Grandma. By the time I finished reading, my vision was blurred. I blinked quickly and pressed my lips together, trying not to cry in front of people who would only use my tears as proof that I was weak or manipulative. Renee shifted impatiently. Well, what does it say? The lawyer stepped in before I could answer. He cleared his throat and pulled a second set of documents from the folder, laying them gently on the table. Let me summarize, he said. He adjusted his glasses, scanning the top sheet. Your mother executed a new will and an accompanying living trust 18 months ago. The previous will, which several of you may have been relying on, was revoked at that time. That got their attention. My uncle frowned. Revoked? What do you mean revoked? The lawyer remained calm. Invalidated. Replaced. No longer enforceable. A murmur spread around the table. Sentences like she never told us and this must be wrong floated through the room. The lawyer tapped one page lightly with his finger. This trust names a primary beneficiary and assigns specific assets. The house. The small savings account. The life insurance payout. The remaining retirement funds. Renee sat up straighter. Yes. That would be me. I managed her appointments. I handled so much. I obviously am the logical choice. The lawyer shook his head once. No, Mrs. Owens. He looked at me. The primary beneficiary of the trust is Harper Lane. I have never seen a room change temperature that fast. The air went cold. Hard. Heavy. Someone inhaled sharply. Someone else whispered, "You have got to be kidding me." Renee's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She stared at the lawyer as if she had misheard him. Say that again. The trust, he repeated, is left to Mississippi Lane. She inherits the house, the financial assets listed here, and is appointed as successor trustee for any remaining distributions. Brianna's face twisted. You are saying she gets everything? The lawyer nodded once. She gets the majority of the estate. There are small designated gifts to each of you. He gestured toward a smaller stack of envelopes on the table. Those are personal items, modest amounts, nothing compared to the main assets. That structure was your mother's clear and deliberate choice. Tyler laughed once, sharp and humorless. This is a joke. The lawyer slid a document forward. Your mother signed these in front of 2 witnesses and a notary. Her doctor also signed a statement attesting to her mental capacity at the time. She knew exactly what she was doing. Renee shook her head slowly, her voice starting to shake. She would not do this. She told me I would be taken care of. The lawyer nodded. Yes. You are. You have a designated amount. But she did not give you control. She did not give you the house. She did not name you trustee. Silence. Then my aunt turned on me. What did you say to her? She demanded. What did you do? Did you pressure her? Did you guilt her? Did you cry and say no one else loved you? Is that what happened? Her words hit like stones, but I refused to flinch. I met her eyes. I did nothing except show up when she called. Brianna scoffed. Oh please. You were always there. Always in her ear. Always playing the good granddaughter. I swallowed, keeping my voice steady. I went when she was lonely. When she fell. When she needed help. Paying a bill online. When she needed a ride. You could have gone too. We were busy, Brianna snapped. Exactly, I said quietly. Renee slammed her palm on the table. This is theft. The lawyer finally raised his voice slightly. No, it is not. It is her documented decision. You may not like it. But you cannot call it theft when it is entirely legal and backed by capacity forms and witnesses. Tyler leaned forward aggressively. We will contest it. The lawyer remained unshaken. On what grounds? You will spend a lot of money to achieve nothing. The trust is airtight. Your mother prepared it carefully. She told me she expected this reaction. That last line felt like a slap in the center of the room. She expected this. Of course she did. She had known these people all her life. Renee's eyes welled up with angry tears. Why would she do this to us? After everything. The lawyer looked at her gently. She did not do it to you. She did it for Harper. That distinction landed harder than anything else he had said. She did it for me. Renee pointed at me again, her fingers shaking. She does not deserve it. She is just the one who brings flowers and acts sweet in front of everyone. I took a breath. I didn't act. I just loved her. My voice broke on the word loved, but I kept going. I didn't ask her for anything. I never asked about money. I never asked about the house. I never asked about paperwork. She kept all this from me. I found out 5 minutes ago, just like you. The lawyer nodded. That is true. Your grandmother was clear. Harper was not informed before today. She wanted to protect her from pressure. Renee stared at both of us, trembling, then suddenly her voice dropped, low and bitter. She always liked you better. The words hung between us. Even in that moment, exhausted and overwhelmed, I realized something. This was never just about the house or the savings or the insurance policy. It was about the fact that my grandmother loved me openly in ways she had never loved them. Not because I was special, but because I was present. Because I stayed. Because I listened. Because I made time when they made excuses. And now the law had written that reality in ink they could not erase. The lawyer cleared his throat again. I understand this is painful. But my job is to honor your mother's wishes. Not yours. Not mine. He turned to me. Harper, do you have any questions at this time? I shook my head slowly, still trying to process everything. My voice was soft. No. I just need a minute. He nodded. Of course. Renee stood abruptly, her chair screeching across the floor. She grabbed her envelope from the smaller stack and stormed to the door. On her way out, she muttered, Enjoy it, Harper. See how far it gets you when you have no family left. The door shut behind her. Brianna and Tyler followed, throwing me looks that were equal parts betrayal and hatred. A few extended relatives grabbed their tiny envelopes and left in a huff. Only my uncle remained seated, staring at the table like his world had crumbled too, but for different reasons. He finally looked up at me. His expression was tired, resigned. She always said you were the only one who made her feel safe, he said quietly. I guess she meant it. Then he picked up his envelope, nodded once at the lawyer, and walked out without another word. Within 2 minutes, the room that had been packed with people was almost empty. The same people who laughed when I brought flowers. The same people who spoke like I was extra. Now they were walking out with thin envelopes and thin dignity, while the thick folder with the real power sat in front of me. The lawyer exhaled slowly. I am sorry they reacted like that. I shrugged, a lump still in my throat. They have been like this my whole life. This is just the first time it backfired on them in a room where they could not talk their way out. He nodded. Your grandmother knew exactly what she was doing. I looked down at the folder again. This, right here, was the first wave of my revenge. Not loud. Not planned. Not even mine, really. It was hers. She wrote it. He delivered it. And they were the ones who had to sit there and watch it unfold. After the room emptied out, I sat with the folder in front of me for a long moment. The hum of the overhead lights felt louder than anything else in the world. The anger, the stares, the slamming of the door, it all lingered in the air like smoke. I took a slow breath, letting the silence settle around me the way Grandma always liked. She used to say silence gives truth a place to land. I understood that now. The lawyer gently pulled out a chair and sat beside me. He didn't rush. He didn't force conversation. He just waited until I collected myself. When I finally looked up at him, he gave me a soft, patient smile. Your grandmother was very intentional, Harper. She didn't choose quickly or emotionally. She thought about this for months. I nodded slowly. I know. I could feel it in her handwriting, in the way she spoke to me in the letter. She knew exactly how this would play out. He exhaled. She did. She knew your family would react harshly. She knew they'd blame you. She also knew you were the only person who wouldn't use her assets to hurt others. I traced my finger along the edge of the folder. She used to tell me the house was built on love. Not money. Not pride. Love. He nodded again. Then she left it to the person who loved her the same way. I swallowed a lump in my throat and closed the folder gently. When we walked back into the church hall, the funeral reception had thinned out. Some people glanced at me with pity. Some with curiosity. Others with open hostility. My Aunt Renee was across the room talking to two women from her social group, waving her hands dramatically. I could practically guess the lines. She manipulated her. She took advantage of her. She always had a plan. Poor us. Poor family. Poor suffering daughter. But when her eyes met mine, something flickered behind them. Not sadness. Not grief. Not even anger. Fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing image. Fear of losing the things she thought she was owed. I walked past her without stopping and left the church. The sun outside felt too bright for a funeral day. I stood there for a moment, letting the fresh air hit my face. The lawyer walked with me to my car, then paused. If any of them contact you in anger, he said softly, call me first. Do not respond directly. You do not owe them explanations. I nodded. Thank you. He hesitated, then added, your grandmother cared for you deeply. She didn't leave you these things to burden you. She left them because she trusted you. That line tightened something in my chest. Trust was heavier than any asset. But it felt right. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat. Every stoplight made me look over at it, like it might disappear if I blinked too hard. Like the last few hours had been some hallucination brought on by grief. But it was real. It was legal. It was done. When I got home, I placed the folder on my kitchen table and just stared at it before finally opening it again. The documents were thorough. The house was mine. The accounts were mine. The small retirement fund was mine. She even listed small sentimental items inside envelopes for specific people, which the lawyer had already distributed. The only big item left was the house. Grandma's house wasn't fancy. It wasn't modern. It didn't have marble counters or smart appliances or those tall windows you see in magazines. It had creaky floors, a squeaky screen door and a driveway that dipped too far to the left. But it was the warmest place in the world. And now it belonged to me. I went there that same afternoon. The key felt different in my hand. Heavier. More permanent. I walked inside and stood in the living room for several minutes without moving. The room smelled like lavender and old books. Her favorite blanket still sat folded on the armchair. Her knitting basket was tucked underneath the coffee table, needles still inside. This house wasn't a building. It was a memory. And it was mine because she wanted me to have it. I walked from room to room slowly. The kitchen. The hall bathroom. The guest room. Then her bedroom. The sunlight fell through the window in soft golden strips, lighting the dust in the air like glitter. The bed was neatly made, just as she always kept it. I sat at the edge and let myself cry quietly. Not for the assets. Not for the inheritance. But because she chose me. She chose me over the noise, over the drama, over the people who wanted the title of good family member but never earned it. As I sat there, my phone buzzed. I wiped my eyes and looked down. A message from my Aunt Renee. It said, we need to talk. Come to the house. Now. I closed the message immediately. I didn't go. A minute later, my phone buzzed again. My cousin Brianna this time. If you think you're keeping everything, think again. You're a guest in this family. Don't push your luck. Guest. The word hit differently. A guest in a house she never showed up to maintain. A guest in a life she never cared to understand. I put my phone on silent. Another message came from Tyler. Selfish. You'll regret this. Followed by another, you stole from your own family. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened Grandma's bedroom closet and pulled out the box she kept on the top shelf. Inside it were old photographs, letters, her childhood journal, and a small velvet pouch. When I opened the pouch, I found her wedding ring, tucked inside carefully. She had labeled it in her handwriting. For Harper. For when she needs courage. I held the ring in my palm, feeling the weight of her life in that small circle of gold. I whispered, "I'm trying, Grandma. I really am." For the next 2 days, the messages from my relatives came non-stop. Accusations. Manipulation. Attempts at guilt. They insisted we talk in person. They claimed they just wanted to clarify things. They tried to twist the story in every direction. But the lawyer kept reminding me, "You do not need to respond. Legally, you are in the right. Emotionally, you owe them nothing." By the end of the 3rd day, the tone of the messages changed. The anger turned to desperation. Then came the knock on my door. A loud, frantic knock. I froze for a moment, then walked slowly to the window and peeked through the curtain. It was Renee. Her hair was a mess. Her makeup smudged. Her breathing heavy. She looked furious and panicked at the same time. "Harper, open the door. We need to talk. You cannot do this to us. Do this to us." Amazing how people who do nothing for you suddenly believe they own you when money is involved. I didn't open the door. She pounded harder. "Do you think a piece of paper gives you the right to destroy our family? You think this will make you happy? You think she loved you more? She was sick. You took advantage. You did this." Her voice cracked. Then softened. Then cracked again. "Harper. Please. Open the door." I stepped back quietly. I didn't owe her a performance. I didn't owe her a confrontation. I didn't owe her a moment. She eventually left, but only after throwing one last sentence through the door. "This isn't over." But here's the thing about legal decisions. When they're signed, notarized, and filed, it is over. She just didn't know it yet. And she definitely didn't know what else was inside that folder. Because my grandmother hadn't just left me the house and the money. She left instructions. Legal instructions. Instructions that would change everything again. And they hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. By the time Renee drove away, tires screeching down the street like she wanted the sound to hurt me, the sun had already begun to set. I stood in the living room of the house Grandma left me, watching the orange glow move across the floorboards she had walked on for decades. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, a knot of worry pressed against my ribs. Not because I doubted the trust. Not because I feared they could take anything back. But because grief makes people unpredictable. Especially people who feel cheated by the truth. I walked back to the kitchen table and opened the folder a second time. I needed to see everything with clear eyes before anything else happened. I flipped slowly through the documents, taking shallow breaths as each line revealed more of what Grandma had left behind. And that was when I found it. Another envelope. Smaller. Cream-colored. Sealed. With my grandmother's initials on the front. When I opened it, there were 2 documents inside. The first was handwritten. The second was typed and notarized. I read the handwritten one first. "My sweet Harper, if they are angry now, they will be worse when they see the rest. I am sorry you have to face their cruelty, but I trust you to stand your ground. You always have. You do not yell. You do not break. You simply stay calm until the truth is louder than they are." The typed document is the part one expect them to hate most. That is why I made it legal. Because I knew they would try to push you out. I knew they would claim the house, guilt you, corner you, or try to force a sale. So I made sure they cannot. I swallowed hard and unfolded the second document. It was a restrictive clause. A legal attachment to the trust. And its words changed everything. My grandmother had left not just the house and accounts to me. She had left the land too. The entire property. Lot. Rights. Adjacent parcel. Even the tiny wooded strip behind the house where she said the deer walked at dawn. All of it. And the clause stated clearly, this property shall not be sold, transferred, or mortgaged without the explicit written consent of the trustee, Harper Lane. No member of the Owens family shall have legal standing to claim residence, partial ownership, or decision-making authority regarding said property. I read it twice. Then a third time. My breath caught. She hadn't just given me the house. She had closed every back door. Every loophole. Every angle my relatives might try to exploit. They couldn't move in. They couldn't force a sale. They couldn't demand compensation. They couldn't sue to share ownership. The house wasn't just mine. It was protected from them entirely. And she hadn't stopped there. A second clause followed: any attempt by family members to harass, intimidate, manipulate, or coerce Harper regarding her inheritance shall result in immediate forfeiture of their designated sentimental gifts, which shall instead be gifted to her at the trustee's discretion. My jaw slackened. She wrote this knowing exactly who these people were. She wrote this knowing they would try to make my life miserable. She wrote this knowing they would accuse me of manipulation. She wrote this knowing they would fight. And she cut all of it off at the root. This wasn't just love. This was protection. A shield wrapped in legal language. As I sat there with the documents spread across the table, the doorbell rang again. This time less frantic. Less urgent. More controlled. I peeked through the curtain. It wasn't Renee. It was my uncle. The quiet one. The one who didn't say much during the funeral. The one who had stared at the table like he saw the truth too late. I hesitated, then finally opened the door an inch. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He just stood there with a sad expression that made him look older. I'm not here to fight, Harper, he said gently. I just want to talk. If that's okay. I opened the door slowly. He stepped inside with the kind of hesitation you only see in people who know they've made too many excuses for too long. He looked around the house, taking in the furniture and photos the others ignored. He touched the edge of the old wooden dining table, the one Grandma refused to replace. She loved this place, he whispered. I nodded. She did. He sat down quietly. I sat across from him. He cleared his throat. They're all furious, you know. I nodded again. He continued. But not because of what she left you. Because it proves something they didn't want to admit. I held my breath. He looked me in the eyes. She trusted you. Not them. A lump formed in my throat. He leaned back, running a tired hand over his face. Renee always saw herself as the one in charge. She thought everything our mother owned would go to her by default. She believed she deserved it because she kept up appearances. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But you actually cared for her. I swallowed. I tried. He shook his head softly. You didn't try. You did. And she saw that. She saw everything. He held up a hand in the air, mimicking the way she used to gesture when telling stories. Your grandmother was never blind. She saw who visited. Who called. Who helped. Who stayed away. Who complained. Who cared. She saw everything. I exhaled. Then he said something I didn't expect. I'm glad she left it to you. I blinked, stunned. You are. He nodded slowly. It's not about the house. It's about who she trusted to keep things gentle. She always said you had a heart like hers. That made my eyes sting. He stood after a moment. I should get going. Brace yourself though. Renee won't give up easily. She'll try to twist this every way she can. She'll try to make you feel guilty. I smiled sadly. She already tried. He nodded. Just don't let her. When he left, I closed the doors softly behind him and leaned my forehead against it. His words held weight. But they also held warning. Renee wasn't finished. Not at all. And she definitely hadn't seen the second clause. That night, around 10. The phone rang again. I didn't answer. A minute later, a text lit up the screen. From Renee. We're coming tomorrow. All of us. You better be ready. But here's what she didn't know. Tomorrow wasn't her day. It was mine. Because the lawyer had already scheduled the final meeting. The one where the clauses would be read aloud. The one where the protections would be explained. The one where the last piece of Grandma's revenge would land. Not quietly. Not gently. Not gradually. All at once. And in front of every single person who had laughed at me before the funeral. The next morning, the sky was gray, heavy with the kind of clouds that look like they're thinking about rain. I woke early, dressed simply, and sat at Grandma's kitchen table sipping coffee while the house settled around me with soft creaks. It felt like she was still here somehow, sitting across from me, telling me to stay calm and let people reveal themselves. When the lawyer called to confirm the meeting at his office for 11, I felt my heartbeat slow into something steady. I wasn't nervous. Not anymore. Not after reading everything she had prepared. Not after seeing how far she went to protect me. Around 10:40, my phone buzzed. Renee, we're outside. I didn't respond. I just grabbed the folder, locked the door behind me, and walked past them toward my car. They stood there in the driveway, all three of them, staring at me like I had ruined their lives on purpose. Renee glared, Brianna folded her arms smugly, and Tyler looked ready to explode. Renee stepped forward. "We're riding with you." I didn't even slow down. "No. I'll meet you there." She scoffed loudly. "So you can twist things before we arrive." I kept walking. "I'm not twisting anything. You're just afraid of what's in the folder." Her jaw tightened so hard I could see a vein pulse in her neck. I drove alone. When we arrived, the lawyer's assistant led all of us into a conference room with a long table and tall windows that let in more light than the morning deserved. The air felt thick the moment they walked in, all whispering, frowning, bracing themselves for a fight they were sure they could win. They had no idea how far behind they already were. The lawyer entered a minute later carrying a binder even thicker than the one I had. He sat calmly, folded his hands, and said in a neutral tone, "Thank you for coming. There are final instructions from your mother regarding the trust that must be read aloud to all immediate family members." Renee sat up like a queen preparing for coronation. "Good. Maybe now we can address the imbalance. There is no reason for Harper to have everything." The lawyer blinked slowly. "Mrs. Owens, we are not here to renegotiate your mother's decisions." Brianna muttered, "There's always room for negotiation." He ignored her and opened the binder. He began reading the trust clauses in order. The house. The accounts. The retirement funds. The designated sentimental items. It was everything they had already heard. They shifted in their chairs, frustrated, restless, waiting for the moment they could argue. Then he turned the page. "Now we come to the land rights and restrictive clauses." The room stilled. Renee frowned. "What clauses?" The lawyer read clearly, "Every inch of property at 112 Maple Ridge, including the adjacent wooded parcel, the land easement behind the house, and all water rights, are hereby transferred exclusively to Harper Lane." Their faces dropped. He continued, "No family member may seek occupancy, shared ownership, or financial claim on said property. Any attempt to force sale, coerce transfer, or apply emotional or legal pressure shall be considered a violation of the trust." Renee's mouth parted in disbelief. "What?" He turned another page. "Additionally, should any family member engage in harassment, threats, or manipulation toward Harper regarding the inheritance, they shall forfeit their designated gifts and all rights to future claims." Tyler shot forward in his seat. "That can't be legal." The lawyer didn't even look up. "It is not only legal. It is enforceable." Brianna's voice cracked with anger. "She planned this. She planned to cut us out." He finally raised his eyes. "No. She planned to protect the only person who actually protected her." The silence that followed was suffocating. Renee slammed her hand on the table. "This is vindictive. She would never do this." He lifted another document. "Would you like to see the video recording of her signing it?" They froze. A video. A notarized signing. A capacity statement from her doctor. Witness signatures. Everything airtight. The lawyer folded his hands. "Your mother knew exactly what she was doing. She said, and I quote, 'Harper is the only one who ever stayed. She deserves the house because she loved me when no one else did.'" Tyler whispered, "This is insane." The lawyer leaned back slightly. "What's insane is how confidently you all believed she would reward you for doing nothing." Renee's face flushed bright red. She was manipulated. Harper took advantage. She got into her head. I sat there calmly, watching the storm collapse around them. The lawyer spoke softly but firmly. "Mrs. Owens, your mother made these decisions 18 months ago. When she was healthy. When she was sharp. When she was fed up with being ignored by the same children who now want to claim her property." Renee blinked hard, tears forming, not from grief but from humiliation. And then he delivered the final blow. "One more item." He slid a sealed envelope across the table toward me. "This is your grandmother's final instruction. She requested it be opened in front of everyone." I stared at it, my hands trembling slightly, then broke the seal and unfolded the letter. My family watched me desperately, hoping she left something for them. A loophole. A compromise. A scrap of validation. I read aloud, "If they are hearing this, it means they have spent years calling themselves my family while letting Harper do all the caring. This house is not your reward. You did not earn it. Do not ask her to return it. Do not ask her to sell it. Do not pretend you were there when you were not. Harper, do not let them guilt you. You owe them nothing. I looked up slowly. Renee burst into tears. Ugly tears. Angry tears. The kind that come from being confronted with a truth too big to swallow. Tyler shoved his chair back violently. This is ridiculous. We're leaving. Brianna stood with her chin trembling. You took everything. Remember that when you're alone. The lawyer corrected her. She didn't take anything. She was given everything. There is a difference. They left. Slamming the door. Muttering curses. Fighting with the reality they couldn't undo. When they were gone, the lawyer exhaled and turned to me. I'm sorry, Harper. That was brutal. I nodded softly. Grandma knew them well. She knew exactly how this would go. He smiled gently. She trusted the right person. I carried the folder out of the office and stepped into the sunlight. It hit my face with unexpected warmth. I didn't feel victorious. Or superior. Or vindictive. I felt calm. I felt loved. Loved enough for someone to protect me even after she was gone. And that was the quiet revenge she had planned all along. Not to punish them. To free me. And if you stayed with me through this story, thank you. If you haven't yet, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There are so many more stories ahead, and I'd love to have you here for every single one.